Currently, altruism and generosity are virtues that are difficult to find in society. Most people focus on their interests and those of their loved ones, forgetting if there is someone who may be having a hard time and needs help. Luckily, there will always be someone capable of looking beyond himself and showing us all the true meaning of goodness. It is often considered good practice for restaurants to give their leftover food to people in need at the end of the day. Most do not follow this practice, causing a lot of food to go to waste. However, there is one restaurant in central Arkansas that does, and it is causing an internet sensation because of the way they treat their diners. Specifically, those who have nothing to pay for their meal. This is the restaurant El Sur Street Food Co., a small but cozy restaurant specializing in Latin food that delights everyone who decides to walk through its door. But this story is not about the restaurant and its exquisite food, to which we could dedicate long pages of praise, because it is perfect, but about what happened there during the heavy month of January, during one of the coldest evenings of the winter. An unusual event which caused a sensation on social networks for weeks, and that even today, many still remember for how special it was and for the precedent it set for the rest of the restaurants in the area. The protagonist of our story is Benjamin Wallace Palacios, a 21-year-old, uneducated young man of Latin American origin, whom probably no one would believe capable of doing anything good with his life, let alone for the lives of others. Wallace was raised by his Aunt Margaret from the age of 6 and never had things easy in life. His father died of an overdose, and his mother was serving time for a felony armed robbery of an upscale jewelry store. So it could be said that his childhood was not like that of other children. His aunt was the only family he had left, and she took care of him like a mother. He owed her everything and loved her dearly. Although his aunt tried hard to educate him and teach him the right path in life, Ben was never an easy child, and the older he got, the more problems he had. He did not like to study and often got into trouble at school. He was expelled from school twice, once for emptying the contents of his trash on top of a classmate. "You can't keep behaving like this, Benjamin. I thought I had raised you better, but your attitude shows me otherwise. I don't understand you, honey. Why do you fight? Why do you do bad things to other children? You're a good boy. I know you. Why do you do it?" His aunt would ask him angrily every time she had to pick him up from the principal's office. "Because other children laugh at me for not having parents. They ask me where they are, and I can't tell them. Some say they abandoned me because they were drunks. Others that my parents didn't want me because I was a bad child. That's why I get angry and punish them. They're the bad ones, not me. But no one understands me. Why can't I have parents like other children, Aunt Margaret? Why does everything have to be so difficult?" exclaimed a frustrated young Benjamin who didn't understand why he had been dealt such bad cards in life. Seeing the real reason for her nephew's misbehavior, Aunt Margaret decided to take him to a psychologist who specialized in dealing with children with behavioral problems. There, Benjamin learned to channel his anger and was able to open his heart like never before. From that moment on, his attitude began to change, and although he did not end up pursuing a career, Benjamin became a polite and kind-hearted young man, eager to learn how to work and give the best of himself. Unfortunately, his happiness was cut short again when he was 19, at which time his aunt was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. Doctors did what they could for her, but the disease was too advanced, and she died a few months after her diagnosis. That shattered Wallace, who had already accumulated too many family tragedies for his age. But he didn't let the sadness get the best of him, and did just what his aunt would want him to do: move on and try to be a better version of himself every day. "You're a good person, Ben. Don't ever forget that, honey. No matter what they may say to you, no matter what anyone else thinks, always remember who you are. And please remember how much I love you. I don't want my absence to spoil everything you have accomplished over the years. You are a great man, and I know that someday you will get others to see it too. Don't stop doing good, and in the end, good will find you. Don't ever forget that, honey." These were the last words Aunt Margaret said to Ben shortly before she died. Words that Wallace would never forget, and that would become a kind of mantra that he repeated during difficult times. After the death of his aunt, Benjamin had several jobs, most of them temporary, and with a lousy salary that barely allowed him to cover his monthly expenses. He was lost for a long time and did not know what to do with his life, until the day came when, by chance, he found the job he was born to do, and that really made him happy: being a cook. Of course, he had no money, no training to own his own restaurant, and he wasn't eligible for the position of head chef anywhere, but that wasn't what he was looking for. One morning, Ben found a job ad in the newspaper for a Latin American restaurant looking for a kitchen assistant. No experience was required, just a willingness to learn and work hard. It was just what he needed. The restaurant, of course, was El Sur Street Food Co., and although at the beginning, Ben made many mistakes and got more than one scolding from his boss, little by little he started to do better and earned the respect and trust of everyone. His aunt was a great cook, and although he never had time to tell her, Wallace loved each one of her dishes, and watching her cook was one of his favorite pastimes. Starting to work as a kitchen helper there was the best way to honor her memory and the affection she gave him throughout his life. When he cooked, it was as if he were back in her kitchen, listening to her humming some old song as she prepared some exquisite stew. Time passed, and Benjamin felt happier and happier that he made the decision to work there. The customers knew him and were nice to him. He had a good work schedule and a good salary, and most importantly, he felt good about himself and felt that he was doing things right for the first time in his life. And it is precisely at this point in the story when the path of our young protagonist will cross with that of a person who, just as it happened to him at the time, felt lost, abandoned by the world, and angry about the bad luck he had had in life. A coincidence that made millions of people know the goodness that lived inside a boy who had spent half of his life angry and sad, and that at the same time would launch a small restaurant in central Arkansas to fame. It all happened during a cold evening at the end of January. The thermometer was -1 degrees, and a heavy snowfall had been announced for that night. Benjamin had stayed at the front of the restaurant that evening. There were not too many people because of the cold, but he decided to continue cooking to offer a hot dish to anyone who needed shelter from the cold of the street. It was an hour before closing time when a person entered the restaurant. It was a homeless man. His clothes were dirty and full of tears. His hands were frozen from not wearing gloves against the cold, and his face showed how hungry he was. He walked in and, in a kindly way, asked Benjamin if they had any food they were willing to throw away. "I'll settle for some bread and some meat. It doesn't matter if it's not hot. Anything you have left over that you're going to throw away, I would serve myself. I don't need much," explained the man with kindness and trying to smile, although it was very difficult for him because of the cold and hunger he was feeling. But the answer he got was not what he expected. It was something much better. Benjamin looked at him with tenderness and felt a deep compassion for the man. It was clear that he had no evil in him and that he had simply been very unlucky. He walked up to the counter and, giving him a big smile, said, "Of course we have some food for you, sir, but I won't give you anything we're going to throw away. I'll offer you a full plate freshly made. Tell me, what would you like to eat? You can choose from any of the dishes on the menu of the day. I will prepare it for you. You are invited." The man did not seem to understand what had just happened. He was silent for a few moments and then stammered, Are you going to give me the food? Why?" The man was on the verge of tears. "Because we all need help when we're going through tough times. I may not be able to provide for everyone in need, but I can ensure that you, even without knowing you personally, can go to sleep tonight with a full stomach and feeling a little less miserable. So, sir, please sit down. In a few minutes, I will bring you your dinner," Benjamin explained with great enthusiasm, looking him directly in the eyes. Benjamin never imagined what that small act of generosity would do and the global reach it would have. As it turned out, as the homeless man entered the restaurant, Rhonda Chung, a customer who was just leaving the restaurant at that moment with her takeout order, witnessed everything that happened that cold afternoon on the main street of Little Rock, and was lucky enough to see what Wallace did to help the poor man. The day after what happened, Rhonda wrote a post on Facebook explaining in detail everything that happened that afternoon and praising the work and generosity of Benjamin and the restaurant. El Sur Street Food Co. is the embodiment of compassion and local love. Chung's post on Facebook received more than 2.9 million likes and was shared throughout the internet, becoming one of the most prominent topics in a matter of hours. And as if this were not enough, the post was also shared on Reddit by Greyhome, increasing its popularity and receiving thousands of comments from users applauding the restaurant for its kindness. A Reddit user, One Outcast Will, commented, "We need stories like this to be more common. I hope that the people of the community will go to this place and show their support for this business. We need more people like that in the world." Another user, Mammoth Cook 3625, said, "I could never refuse someone to come to my hungry kitchen. The world could use more people like that." Benjamin was not looking for all that recognition, but his precious action with that homeless man made both he and the restaurant become the center of attention of thousands of people for weeks. Everyone who knew him congratulated him, and the restaurant increased its clientele by more than 80% during the months following the publication. His kindness not only made the day of a man who had lost everything, but also everyone he knew and cared about. He had never felt happier, and the only thing he had done was do good, selflessly, just as his aunt had advised him. He missed her a lot, and would have loved to tell her everything that happened, although he knew it wasn't necessary. He knew that she was always by his side, and that wherever she was now, she would be smiling at him. That's all he needed to know. This moving story allows us to see that there are still good and kind people who go out of their way to help those in need. A beautiful story that reminds us that if we are kind to others, life will be kind to us. Did you like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.